Right, so I'm going to share with you today a little drill, a little exercise that I did with a student of mine recently, which really helped them square the driver face up. And it was really important because we have to understand that there is a different release with the driver when we're comparing that to the irons. And this little exercise really helped them understand and sort of gain a little bit more control of the golf club. And it was done through a very, very natural way. And that's the key. We're trying to use the natural swing of the club to square the club face. So let me just quickly go through kind of what was happening in their golf swing and what they were trying to do. They were actually trying to hit a right to left shot. They were typically struggling with a left to right. They were trying to move their club path out to the right hand side. And they were actually doing a pretty good job of doing that. But in an attempt to swing the club out to the right, the hands and the grip of the club were moving out to the right, and their body was playing a role in that. So it was a little bit kind of this movement here. Now you can see where the club is starting to come in from, and what they were then doing through impact is trying to then rotate and square the club face. And we saw this position post impact where the club was pointing down at the ground, and what we saw was in the sort of 10 or 15 shots we looked at, some which were a little bit out to the right, some which were moving to the left, and some which were contacting the heel of the golf club. And so I came up with a little exercise, a little routine, which really helped them feel and sense what we were trying to do. So what I asked them to do, take an address to the golf ball, and I wanted to take the top hand, so the glove hand, to go right down onto the bottom of the handle, and then obviously this hand is on the grip itself. And backswing was normal, and we got them to work down to around about here. So around about club level of the ground. Now, what was really important here is the instruction I gave them was nothing to do with the club head. It was actually to do with this grip end. What I asked this golfer to do was when the club got to this point, I wanted them to take this grip and basically touch the top of their thigh. I don't know if you can see that. So touch the top of the thigh with the grip. And what you should see happens as I take my trail hand off, as I try and do that, club connects with the thigh. But what's happening with the club face is it's starting to pretty naturally square up. So you can see that as that touches my thigh, the golf club starts to point a lot more down towards my target. So straight away, the golfer communicated to me, and that was actually quite interesting because they were standing here and they were looking at the grip, and I was saying to them, connect the grip to the top of your thigh, and they were looking at the grip and they were making this movement, and they looked down at the club head and looked at me and went, well, the club's square. And I said, well, that's exactly what we're trying to get. So it wasn't a conscious effort for them to twist the club face or flip the club face or square the club face. It was simply a case of trying to get the grip end of the club to touch the top of the thigh. So once we've done that a couple of times, we just added the trail hand and we started to get this movement happening here. And you can see how as I touch that club to my thigh, the club starts to get delivered. Now this was really, really helpful for this golfer because it actually gave them, once we started to put it into the full swing, it actually gave them more speed. Because what you'll notice when you do this little exercise, and whether you're doing it now at home, whether you do it at the range, is that movement actually starts to what we call kick the club out. And you'll feel that as you start to point it at your thigh, it gives that club head a little bit more of a kick of speed. And the club has a free release through the hitting area. It's not this manipulated, move the path out to the right, and then I've got to get the face over, and it was this kind of, which doesn't really give any consistency. So the little demonstration I did, I'm going to tee that ball up a little higher, was I basically said to this golfer that if we can get this position and have the idea as pointing that to your top of the thigh, what's going to happen is that movement is going to start the club rotating back towards the target. And if that is my only thought process, grip to thigh, grip to thigh, grip to thigh, guess what happens? You kick the club out, it starts to rotate very naturally, we collect the ball, and the ball went dead straight. I absolutely 100% guarantee it. I did not have any conscious effort then on trying to square the club face. And it's a great little exercise. I really want you to try this. I really want you to grab a golf club, a driver, and just practice this little movement and see how almost automatic it is to square that club face. The reason this is important is that when we look at an iron, we really want to have a lot more shaft lean. We really want to be delaying the hit. We want to have the hands forward and have lots of shaft lean, this bowed wrist to really compress the golf ball, put some speed into it, strike the ground after the ball. The driver is different. We have to start that release process a little earlier. And we don't really want with the driver this hand forward. We don't need an excessively bowed wrist. With the driver, we're actually looking to line the golf club up so the club shaft is pretty much neutral. The wrist will be pretty flat, but it's quickly moving into this extended position. And it's that starts to give the club face its natural swing through the ball. Let me do that exercise again, because this is how I'd love you to start. Take a driver, up, down, point the grip at your thigh. And as I'm doing that, I'm really feeling the natural swing of the club. Notice how my right hand is hardly on the golf club. Grip at thigh, grip at thigh, grip at thigh. As long as I do that and turn through, look how easy it is to deliver that club face really square. I know that's only going 25 yards, but it's so easy to just let that club swing through. That's what I need to do in the golf swing. So it's then just a case of working on the timing of things, but that's the little exercise I want you to go through. It's going to really help you release the club at the right point, square the club face, and do it in a natural way. If you can do it in a natural way, it's repeatable. You can go on the course and do it 14 times out of 14 and hit every fairway. If you do it manually, you're not going to hit 14 fairways, I guarantee it. You're going to be struggling for timing. So let's go ahead and see if we can do it for real at full speed. Obviously a little bit more difficult, but no reason why I shouldn't be able to get the same result.